All right, so we are working on a 2015 Silverado 1500 four-wheel drive. We are doing a Jasper engine replacement. We are doing the active fuel management, the DOD delete. Only thing I've done so far is pull the air box out of the way and started draining the coolant. I just pulled the lower radiator hose off just to get some of that coolant out of the system. That way I can lower it down and get everything pulled off up top. Battery's still connected, so I'm not doing anything underneath except for taking off the serpentine belts. This does have several belts. You got your main accessory belt, which runs the water pump and things like that. You got one for a vacuum pump, one for the air condition. So we're going to get those pulled off. Some of them are stretch belts, some of them are not, but I'll show you the process on removing them. Real easy. Going back together is a little bit harder, but it can be done. We're going to go ahead and finish letting this coolant drain out. We'll go ahead and get these belts off, and I'm going to go ahead and drain the engine oil while I've got it up in the air. I'll go ahead and show you how to remove these stretch belts. Okay, so the crank bolt's a 24 millimeter. So basically what we're going to be doing here is just taking a screwdriver, getting it up on the top side of the belt, and we are going to go ahead and rotate the crank. Come on. Get hand switched around here. We are going to replace these, but if you're doing it at home, you may or may not. So slowly work off. Okay, so that is off of the vacuum pump. Now we got to do the same thing with the air condition. So we'll move the camera over. Let's see. And basically what we're going to do is the same thing. I'm just going to Alright, now we're going to go ahead. I can't get the main one off. It's easier to get from the top. But that's how you get these stretch belts on or off. And you're basically going to do it in reverse order. It is a little bit more of a pain in the butt to do it, but I'll show you some tools and tricks to get this set in place when we get everything back together. Alright, so we do have to pull the radiator condenser out, so that way we have room. We'll get this upper frame off, which I'll show you, which you also have to do to get the condenser out. So this is going to be the process. I've got the AC machine hooked up, sucking all the Freon out of it. We've got the two belts, stretch belts off, the AC compressor and the vacuum pump. We're going to take this top one off. So we got the belt off. We will be replacing it with a new one. Same way with the two stretch belts. Anytime you take a stretch belt off, you want to replace it unless it's brand new. Then they can handle a little bit of extra stress, but always recommend replacing them. So we'll get the fan electronics disconnected. We've got the radiator already drained, so we'll move the camera around, get you in time lapse of removing this fan shroud, the electric fans, and this upper cross member. Alright, so there's actually 3 bolts, one here, and one over here, which has already been removed and not put back. So somebody's already had this bracket top plate out. So basically where it is, for the ones that have actually had the bolts put back in place, is where the washer solvent reservoir is, all the way up to the front by that secondary cross member for the headlight. It's a 10 millimeter. You will need a swivel or a long swivel, any kind of 10 millimeter swivel. So you can do it with a wrench, with a ratcheting wrench, anything you want. But there's 3 here, actually 2 on this one. So we'll just go ahead and get this. Okay, and the third one, if it's attached, is right here underneath. So it's right in line with the washer reservoir underneath. You can get it with a super long 1/4 inch extension. You can get it from that swivel right in through here. But this, like I said, this one's been taken out, so we don't have to worry about it. So let me get the camera set up on the other side, and we'll show you that side. Okay, so this one has 2 only also. The third one way over here has already been taken out and not put back in. So you can see this one right here, which is the same way on the other side. So you got this 10 millimeter here, 10 millimeter here. Get this panel out of the way. It's just a little paper style coated cover to get access to that 10 millimeter. And you are kind of doing this blind, so it makes things a little difficult. on. Alright, those are out. So now we have to get the radiator bolts out, 13 millimeter, one on each side. And then we got this 13 millimeter right here. And then you get the joy of fighting this thing to come out. So I'm gonna put the camera up and go ahead and get that disassembled. Okay, so this radiator, when you're doing a condenser job, you don't have to disconnect the transmission cooler lines. You do have to disconnect the transmission cooler lines. But you got one here, one right here. It also connects here and right here. They are a pain when they're going back together, but to get this condenser out, which this has been replaced already once, which is probably the reason why it was missing the bolts. This tab gets pressed in, there's one on the other side, and it will literally pull right up out of place. You do have to kind of push the radiator forward a little bit, but the oil cooler lines and the transmission cooler lines have to come off when pulling the radiator. You don't have to pull the radiator just to do the condenser, but you do have to take that upper bracket off. So that's that. One thing I did forget to mention, when you pull these clips off, the new condenser comes with them on the top, and generally the radiators do also. But if you're just taking it out like we are for the any major repairs like this, make sure you put these things back in, otherwise you will have a major leak. Okay, as you can see, it cleaned up a whole lot of room up front, so now we got a place where I can get in there and stand up and get everything basically disassembled. So we will start this process of getting this all the hoses out of the way, the radiator hoses, all the harnesses, get the intake out, alternator, everything's gonna basically want to come out. That way we got room to pull it. You do need to take that radiator out. That way you have the access for that front balancer, so it's not damaging anything. There may be enough room to lift it and get it out, but it's a pretty tight area, so that's why we always recommend taking it out. That way you don't damage anything. So we will go ahead and get the heater hoses disconnected, get all the radiator hoses, the alternator, everything disconnected. We've already disconnected the negative battery terminal, so we'll get you in time lapse and start this process. All right, so we got the water pump bracket assembly out. Now that water pump is actually two pieces. That pulley right behind it, there's a couple of 10mm bolts that hold it in place. And you got the full bracket like a traditional 5.3. But you got to get the alternator bracket out of the way first. But before you get that out, you got to get the AC compressor. And because I already vacuumed it down, I was able to set it off to the side over here. We got the you got to get the tensioner off, alternator, then you can get the water pump out of the way. Now we can focus on this mechanical vacuum pump. So we're gonna go ahead and get this off. I'll get you in time lapse. We got the intake off. Last thing we're gonna do before we pull the engine is get this fuel rail system, because this is the high pressure fuel pump, direct injection. We'll show you the process of doing this a little bit more in depth once I get ready for it. I want to do this last, then hook everything up. We'll go ahead and get the coils out of the way and the spark plugs out, so that way it's easier to rotate the crank so we can get the torque converter bolts out. So we're going to go ahead and get the vacuum pump out of the way, and I'm going to put you in time lapse. Alright, so we lifted it up, cleaned up the mess that I made. So now we're going to go ahead and get the, actually we don't have to take this exhaust manifold off. It looks like there's enough room where we can pretty much access everything. No, I'm going to go ahead and take it off because of the bolts for the engine mount sit right there. So I want to give as much room as I possibly can. So we're going to get the exhaust manifolds unbolted on both sides. I'll put you in time lapse for that. Go ahead and start with the bell housing bolts, get the starter out of the way, get some of the plastic covers out of the way. So we've got it lifted. We'll go ahead and start with the little stuff, and then we'll get you in time lapse, and anything comes up, I'll let you know.